Ever wondered how a single currency, the American dollar, can impact the global economy? Let's delve into this fascinating topic. Picture the global economy as a vast, interconnected web. At the heart of this web, pulsating with power and influence, is the American dollar. This isn't by chance. The dollar's central role is a result of its status as the world's primary reserve currency. But what does that mean? Essentially, central banks across the globe hold large amounts of the dollar as part of their foreign exchange reserves. They do this to stabilize their own currencies and facilitate international trade. It's a bit like having a universal language. It simplifies communication, or in this case, economic transactions. Now let's consider inflation and exchange rates. These are two vital signs of any economy's health. Interestingly, the American dollar has a significant impact on both. When the value of the dollar rises, global inflation often decreases. This is because commodities like oil are priced in dollars. So, when the dollar is strong, these commodities are cheaper for countries to import, reducing inflation. However, a strong dollar can also make American goods more expensive for other countries, affecting global trade balances. The dollar's value also influences exchange rates. When the dollar is strong, other currencies may weaken relative to it, affecting their purchasing power on the global stage. But it's not all smooth sailing. The dollar's dominance also means that any economic turbulence in the United States can send shockwaves through the global economy. Think of it as a ripple effect. A financial crisis in the US can lead to a global economic downturn, as we saw in 2008. So it's clear that the American dollar plays a crucial role in shaping the global economy. Its influence is far-reaching, affecting everything from inflation to trade balances. But with great power comes great responsibility, and the health of the US economy is vital for global economic stability. Inflation can seem like a complex concept, but what does it really mean in simple terms? Well, imagine you have $1 in your pocket. Over time, due to inflation, that dollar can buy you less and less. That's because inflation represents the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. Inflation is typically measured by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. This index looks at the price of a basket of goods and services, including food, transportation, and medical care. When the CPI rises, it means prices are increasing, and your dollar buys less. Now let's bring the American dollar into the picture. As the world's primary reserve currency, the American dollar has a significant influence on global inflation rates. When the value of the dollar increases compared to other currencies, it can drive inflation down globally. That's because goods priced in dollars become more expensive, leading to a decrease in demand and a subsequent drop in prices. On the flip side, a weaker dollar can lead to higher inflation. That's because goods become cheaper, leading to an increase in demand and a subsequent rise in prices. This interplay between the value of the dollar and global inflation rates is a critical aspect of the global economic system. However, it's important to remember that inflation isn't inherently bad. Moderate inflation is actually a sign of a healthy economy. It indicates that the economy is growing and that people are spending. But when inflation gets too high, it becomes problematic, eroding purchasing power and potentially leading to economic instability. Inflation dynamics, while complex, are integral to understanding the ebb and flow of the global economy. By keeping an eye on inflation and understanding its relationship with the American dollar, we can gain insights into the health of the global economy and make informed decisions about our financial futures. What triggers an economic collapse in a country? At first glance, it may seem like a simple question, but the answer is as complex as the global economy itself. Let's start with a term you're likely familiar with: currency devaluation. This is when a country intentionally reduces the value of its currency to make its exports cheaper and more attractive to foreign buyers. However, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it may boost exports, but it also makes imported goods more expensive, which can lead to inflation and a lower standard of living. Now let's talk about debt. Not all debt is bad. In fact, it's often necessary for a country's growth. But when a country's debt levels become unsustainable, it can lead to an economic collapse. This happens when a country borrows so much that it can't even afford the interest on its loans, let alone repay the principal. This can trigger a vicious cycle of borrowing and spending that eventually leads to a full-blown economic crisis. Next up is political instability. This can take many forms, from civil unrest to sudden changes in government policy. When political instability is high, it can scare off investors, both domestic and foreign, leading to a drop in investment, a slowdown in economic growth, and potentially an economic collapse. Interestingly, the American dollar can contribute to all these factors. As the world's primary reserve currency, fluctuations in the value of the dollar can have a big impact on global inflation rates and exchange rates. This can, in turn, affect a country's ability to manage its debt and maintain political stability. So, the next time you read about an economic collapse in a country, remember that it's not just about numbers on a page. It's about currency devaluation, unsustainable debt levels, and political instability. And it's about the often overlooked role of the American dollar in the global economy. Understanding these triggers is key to preventing future economic disasters. But who holds the reins in managing these economic crises? Governments, central banks, and international institutions play a pivotal role in shaping the global economic landscape. When economic crises strike, they are the ones stepping up to manage the turmoil. Let's start with governments. Their primary role is to implement sound economic policies that foster growth and stability. Through fiscal policy, which includes decisions on government spending and taxation, they can influence the direction of the economy. For instance, during a recession, governments might increase spending or cut taxes to spur economic activity. Now, let's talk about central banks. These institutions, such as the Federal Reserve in the United States or the European Central Bank, are in charge of monetary policy. Their toolkit includes setting interest rates and controlling the money supply. By adjusting these levers, central banks can affect inflation, employment, and economic growth. For example, in times of economic downturn, central banks often lower interest rates to stimulate borrowing and investment. But what about on the global stage? That's where international institutions come in. Organizations like the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank provide financial assistance and policy advice to countries facing economic difficulties. Their goal is to promote international monetary cooperation and financial stability around the globe. These entities don't work in isolation, though. They collaborate, sharing information and coordinating policies to prevent economic crises or to mitigate their effects when they do occur. It's a complex dance, requiring expertise, foresight, and a keen understanding of the interconnectedness of the global economy. Yet it's not just about crisis management. These institutions also work tirelessly to promote stability and growth. They strive to create an economic environment where businesses can thrive, where jobs are plentiful, and where the value of money remains relatively stable. The responsibility of managing economic crises and promoting stability rests on the shoulders of these entities. Their actions, decisions, and policies shape the world we live in, influencing everything from the price of a loaf of bread to the stability of nations. So, why is it important to understand the global economy and the role of the American dollar? Well, let's take a step back and ponder upon the information we've untangled so far. Our global economy is an intricate web of transactions, trade agreements, and financial systems, all interlaced to function as one. The American dollar doesn't just sit idly in this system, but instead it plays a pivotal role in shaping the global economic landscape. The dollar's influence is far-reaching. It impacts global inflation rates, exchange rates, and serves as the world's primary reserve currency. This means that the value of the dollar can have a ripple effect on economies worldwide, influencing the financial stability of nations and the purchasing power of individuals. But that's not all. The mechanisms of economic collapse, such as currency devaluation, unsustainable debt levels, and political instability, are critical factors that can drive economies into turmoil. By understanding these, we can better anticipate potential economic crises and perhaps mitigate their impact. And let's not forget the roles of governments, central banks, and international institutions. They are the safeguards, the watchers over our global economy. They are tasked with managing economic crises and promoting stability. Their decisions can shift the economic tides, for better or worse. So why should we care about all this? Because the global economy is not just about numbers and graphs. It's about the livelihoods of billions of people. It's about the food on our tables, the clothes on our backs, and the roofs over our heads. It's about the opportunities we have and the futures we can build. The global economy is a vast and complex system, with the American dollar at its heart. Understanding this system is key to making sense of the world we live in. So, keep questioning, keep learning, and most importantly, keep watching the dollars and cents because they do make a world of difference.